Let me just start off this video by stating a message directly towards Insomniac Games themselves. Guys, first off, if this does turn out to be true, thank you, but second off, it's okay to take a break every now and then. We know how hard you guys are working on these games, and a break from making them won't do anyone any harm. But at the same time, they are definitely living up to the Insomniac name if this potential rumor ends up being accurate. But regardless, welcome back, true believers, and all you spectacular Spidey fans, Merry Marvelites, Uncanny X-Men fans, and general superhero lovers of all kinds, to another very interesting Marvel Games related video, which may or may not revolve around Insomniac being the main developer for this upcoming Marvel project, which, if you don't know, there has been a very interesting rumor surrounding a brand new Marvel game, one that we currently do not know about. So if you're a massive Marvel gaming fan like myself, you know full well that we have a lot of very intriguing Marvel properties to look forward to within the next coming years in the realm of video games, mainly with that of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy releasing in October of this year of 2021. We're also supposed to expect Spider-Man to release as a PlayStation exclusive character for Marvel's Avengers, again only on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 systems. And we also have Marvel's Midnight Suns coming from 2K and Filarca Studios, which is going to release in March of 2022. But more specifically, from Insomniac Games themselves, we obviously have the extremely exciting sequel of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine, both launching as complete PlayStation 5 exclusives. And for one, I could not be more excited for each and every one of these properties. However, based on this recent rumor, which does come from a very reliable leaker within the gaming industry, this could potentially be referring to not only a brand new Marvel game, which is going to feature a massive multiplayer component, but this might in fact be the upcoming AAA multiplayer project that Insomniac Games is working on. So this news actually does come from fellow games leaker Nick Baker, also known as Special Nick on Twitter, from the Xbox Era podcast. And if you do want to watch the entire podcast for yourself, I will leave a link to it in the description below with a specific timestamp as to when this rumor is brought up. However, I am going to be reading off of this article from comicbookgaming.com, which does analyze things into a better perspective. And as the article goes on to describe, is that news of this supposed Marvel multiplayer game comes by way of Nick Baker, who is an industry insider that has shared accurate information in the past. On the latest episode of the Xbox Era podcast, which Baker co-hosts, he explained that he has been told from a lone source that a Marvel multiplayer title of some sort is currently being developed. Baker stressed that there were some additional details on the game that he wasn't at liberty to share, but he did say he believes that the project as a whole, if it is real, would be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. Adding his own conjecture to the mix, Baker theorized that Insomniac Games could once again be the studio in question that is working on this Marvel project. While Insomniac is already quite busy developing Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine, Baker seems to have more information about the project than he publicly revealed that makes him believe that this is the studio that could make the game. However, he made sure to specify that this is purely his own best guess about who could be developing it. So just to reiterate one more time, everybody, is that this is nothing but a rumor coming from this particular source of Nick Baker. And if you do follow me personally and watch any of my previous videos, you know that I usually don't give rumors like these any time of day, considering how they usually come from these type of inside sources that don't really have too much validity when it does come to their backup claims. However, in this case, it does come from Nick Baker, who, as the article stated and has been proven online, to be a pretty reliable source when it does come to actually involving these rumors and potential leaks relating to upcoming video game projects. And while Nick is simply thinking that Insomniac could be the people behind this Marvel multiplayer project, we do know full well that Insomniac is currently working on a massive AAA standalone multiplayer game that isn't Marvel's Spider-Man 2 or Marvel's Wolverine. And again, both of those projects are purely single-player experiences. However, as we obviously know, Insomniac are a complete first-party studio part of the PlayStation Studios lineup, meaning that any game that they make, whether it is Marvel-related or not, is going to be a complete PlayStation exclusive. And in this case, considering that we are going towards the future of game development, it's likely going to be an exclusive on the PlayStation 5 system instead of being a cross-gen game on the PS4 and PS5, like obviously what we already know with Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine going to run exclusively on next-gen hardware. And obviously, if this is going to be a multiplayer project with Marvel characters coming from Insomniac games, I would think it wouldn't necessarily revolve around a solo hero in that own spectrum for their own game, but instead possibly focus on a group of superheroes that would work well in a multiplayer setting. This was sadly not what happened when we did receive Marvel's Avengers coming from Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics, mainly because they focused too much on the live service elements of that game and didn't focus too much on delivering a core single-player narrative or even try to flesh out the multiplayer elements of that game in a way that felt fresh and mainly fun. So in this scenario, just say that this rumor may end up being true, and in fact, Insomniac are crazy masterminds that are not only working on Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, but also in the meantime are working on a complete Marvel multiplayer game. I do think that there is one of 3 potential options of which group of characters this could be. And sadly, I know that a lot of people want to see Insomniac's take on the Avengers. I don't think Marvel would waste so much money to make 2 separate Avengers video games, where the first one already lost over $67 million in developer productions, so I definitely think Insomniac might take a different approach when it does come to this multiplayer game, if it does turn out to be true. And those 3 picks are X-Men, Fantastic Four, or the Defenders. Obviously, I say X-Men because we do see Wolverine as one of the main major projects that Insomniac are working on, and if that ends up building further into an X-Men universe, they could easily insert Wolverine from his own standalone game into a complete multiplayer-centric X-Men title, which, in my opinion, would just be straight out awesome. The second group of characters, which I desperately think deserve their own standalone game at some point, either from Insomniac or just a developer that truly understands the core fundamentals of these characters, is the Fantastic Four. But however, like what we're seeing with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, where even though that is a team-based game where you are able to control different members of the Guardians by commanding them as Star-Lord, Star-Lord himself is the only playable character of that game. And while I understand a lot of people may be a bit divided on that, I do think it is actually going to be fitting for the type of experience that Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is shaping up to be. But in the case of the Fantastic Four, I think the complete opposite. If Insomniac were to make a multiplayer Fantastic Four game, each of the members of the team would need to be playable, especially if each of the members of the team are going to be playable by different people that you can team up with online. And lastly, the same scenario does apply for the group of heroes, which I definitely think are the most underrated on this list, is none other than the Defenders. That, of course, being Luke Cage, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, similar to the Netflix show, but they could also include some other members from the comics if they so desire. But mainly, a standalone Daredevil game has been long overdue ever since the main release, I would say, of Spider-Man PS4 from 2018, and even with the Arkham games when 2015 occurred for Batman Arkham Knight. A Daredevil game is a must, but if we aren't able to receive a standalone Daredevil game of his own right, I think a multiplayer-centric game with Daredevil included in the main team of the Defenders would be pretty darn cool nonetheless. And most importantly, when it does come to this multiplayer project, is that Insomniac have handled multiplayer in some of their games with really great magnitude, like that of the Resistance franchise, and most recently, I would say, Sunset Overdrive, which did feature a co-op mode. But at the same time, Insomniac's upcoming multiplayer game could easily be a completely different franchise, with that of maybe a Resistance type of reboot, a brand new IP which is nothing we've ever seen before, or even this Marvel property which could focus on either one of these 3 teams I mentioned, or something completely different. We have no idea. But knowing how much of a successful relationship that Marvel Games and Insomniac as well as PlayStation have had with one another, and knowing that their relationship is only continuing to grow with other game installments like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine, it would not surprise me in the slightest if it turns out their upcoming multiplayer game is another Marvel title. But at the same time, I just feel really bad for any of you who sadly own an Xbox or a Nintendo Switch and do not currently own a PlayStation 4, or what is going to be more important in the future, a PlayStation 5. Still, fingers crossed that this game turns out being epic no matter what it is, but if this rumor and news ends up being true, this is easily going to make Insomniac the top tier of developers when it comes to handling Marvel properties. I'm excited for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and I do think Marvel's Midnight Suns will have its fans, but knowing how good of a job they did with Spider-Man PS4, and Miles Morales, and seeing how amazing both Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine look, and what we're hearing about the games, they also sound like they're going to be awesome. They are clearly true, dedicated fans when it comes to the Marvel IP, and I would trust them with any character that they decide to make a game off of if they give them the same amount of passion and treatment like what we've seen with Spider-Man and what we're currently seeing with Wolverine, and then put that into other Marvel characters. I think that's just easily a recipe for greatness. So with all that said, everyone, that is the video and rumor news of sorts I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think? Do you think that this upcoming rumored Marvel multiplayer game is developed by Insomniac, and which particular character or characters do you think that this game could relate to? Is it X-Men? Is it the Defenders? Is it Fantastic Four? I don't think it's going to be the Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers, since they're already getting their own games from Square Enix, but you never know. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below, everybody. And until next time, true believers, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy. And without further ado, peace out.